Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for Engaging Online. Today, I'll be speaking to you about finding success as an online student. I'll be going over my 4 key elements. These are my tips and tricks for being successful in an online course. The first of these is tech savviness. Then I'll be going over how using time and space both effectively and efficiently. And lastly, how reading comprehension plays an important role in understanding online formats. So the first of these skills is tech savviness. And often my students are going to say to me, I'm just not good at technology. I argue against that. Just like we need to be good at collaborating and team building and communication skills, technology is a skill that we all must possess. We must be able to learn and demonstrate innovative skills. We must be able to use digital literacy. We must be able to use career and life skills in real ways. And a lot of these are linked directly to tech savviness, right? So when we say the 21st century skill sets of collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity, we're also saying that you must be able to do those in a virtual way. So there are 8 basic skills everyone should have. And these come largely from places like Forbes magazine and Fortune and LinkedIn and places where people are trying to recommend how to write a good solid resume. So these 8 skills are searching, using video and creating video, following tutorials, being able to communicate virtually, being good with word processing and data processing, being able to present, and then being able to practice all these tech skills. So briefly, I'm going to go over each one of these. The first of these is searching, which seems like a pretty common sense, kind of a no-brainer. But really, searching is a skill, right? Being able to find information online is probably more important than knowing information. A great for instance is when in my class, I ask my students to convert inches to miles. Simple process. They could type it into Google Calculator and come out with the conversion. But the problem is a lot of my students just didn't know what was a reasonable answer. They didn't know if the number should be in 300s, 3000s, 300,000s, or 300 millions. So if they made a mistake, they didn't know if they got the right answer or not. Well, this is often a problem with Google searching, right? When we look for information, if we don't have a good foundation or a good strategy, we're going to come up with unreasonable or unreliable information. The next skill is being able to use video. We have to be able to use video in 2 ways, as a consumer and viewing video, but also as a creator, right? So all of us have to be able to create videos in real ways that we can share them through social media, through YouTube, or through a learning management system. Tutorials are important ways of learning information in the virtual environment. There are a lot of times these tutorials are video tutorials, but sometimes they're like recipes and they're written out in text. Being able to follow a tutorial and be successful and really in teaching ourselves how to do things is key. Now we can subscribe to tutorials. We can follow people who give tutorials. We can even get newsletters emailed to us that have these tutorials embedded. Communicating virtually is important, not only through text media and social media, but also through multimodal versions of communication, right? So communicating through a visual, through video, through live conferencing, through chat. These are all ways that we need to be able to talk in the 21st century classroom. Then more specific or more software-based skills are things like using a word processor, data processing and spreadsheets, and being able to present information. A lot of times students will say to me, oh, Aaron, I know how to use a Word document, or I know how to use Google Docs, or I've used Excel spreadsheets before. Well, just being able to type into a word processor, or just being able to put numbers in a column in a spreadsheet is not really knowing how to use those programs, right? Word's a very robust program. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it that has more to do with just being able to type into it and seeing if your spell check was accurate. Same is true for Excel. Excel is incredibly complex and is able to do things from creating graphs to spreadsheets to data processing to programming. You name it, it's able to create these database sort of situations. Presentations are also key. And a lot of students will say, well, of course I know how to use PowerPoint. But being effective with PowerPoint is key. Being able to take a PowerPoint and converting it to a video, for instance, is incredibly important. And all of these require practice. None of these can be done just on the fly. They require the ability to sit down with some patience and perseverance and get through problems and becoming better at technology. Just like playing the piano or playing tennis or shooting free throws, technology is a skill set that needs to be practiced. The next element is the use of space. And there's really two kinds of space here. There's physical space and mental space. The physical space is the space around you while you're taking your course. And that means you want to have a space that's free of clutter and of distractions, is designated as your study space, and includes negative space or empty space around you. The reason this is so important is that we need to set up physical space because it has an impact on our mental, our emotional, our social, and our spiritual health. Setting up physical space influences our success. It allows us to get into the mental space that we need to prepare for in order to learn, actively listen, engage, participate, and progress. So designate a place in your home, make it your study space, use it for nothing else, and consistently go back to that space and create a peaceful environment where you can prepare your mind so that you can actively listen, right? So a lot of times students will engage in passive learning, which is similar to like watching TV, for instance, where you just kind of sit there and allow the information to hit you, but you're not really engaged in it. We need to be active learners and actively listen, which means things like when someone says something, we paraphrase it in our own words. We internalize that information and try to picture it in our minds. We play like a little mini video in our head or a little mini movie of what's going on to try to make a memory of what's happening. And we play a game of anticipation, meaning we try to predict what the speaker or the author might be saying before we get to that. By doing these things, we stay engaged and we are able to concentrate. The physical space and the mental space need to be designed and with intention in order to create a place that's conducive for learning. Just like space, we need to use time effectively. There's two major ways to do this. One is keeping routines, and the other is to give yourself time to be a student, right? A lot of times we forget to be present. Dwelling on the past can create feelings of regret and depression. Worrying about the future can create feelings of uncertainty and anxiety. Being in the moment allows us to create stability and harmony. So the first thing I recommend is having a routine. Routines help us feel more in control. So there's a lot of chaos, right, in the world. And oftentimes if we have got too much freedom or too many choices or there's too much chaos, we feel overwhelmed. We start dwelling on the past and worrying about the future. Routines give us structure and allow us to put order to things that are more chaotic and uncertain. One of the best routines you can give yourself is to go to class. Even if you don't have a scheduled class time, make a scheduled class time for yourself. Go to class on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 10. Go to class on Thursday nights from 6 to 10. Whatever you need to do, but give yourself a schedule and keep to it just as if you were going to a physical class. That consistency will help you create order and maintain routines, which will allow you to balance and be more successful as a student. The last thing I want to talk to you about is the importance of reading. Now, a lot of times students think that because they read well, that means they can understand the words quickly and accurately, they're good readers. But truly, what we were looking for is reading comprehension, not reading fluency. So reading fluency is, I know the words on the page. Reading comprehension is able to understand that information and put it in our own words and synthesize it in meaningful ways by drawing connections between what the author is saying and what you're thinking and your experiences. See, what happens is through school, especially through K-12, we are taught to read so that when we learn things, we learn how and what to read. We don't necessarily read to learn. What I mean here is You're given material to read, and you read it, but you're not reading it in the same way that you might read a tutorial or watch a tutorial. And really, that's what we should be doing. So online education is reading to learn. It's a reading-based learning activity. Even if your teacher's great at creating videos and doing a lot of interactive activities and a lot of multimodal communication, the crux of it is still going to be you're reading resources and reading the instructions and directions provided by your instructor. So if you're the kind of student that tends to skip things, gloss over stuff, or not read things and just ask the teacher or ask a student, that isn't really conducive to an online learning environment. Online learning is very independent, and that independence can only come from your ability to understand the material and how to get to the material. So there's three main areas that you need to think about anytime you read any text in an online environment, and that is text, context, and subtext. Text are the actual words being said. Typically, students are good at this part. This is really reading fluency. This is understanding the words that are on the page. But you don't really have meaning yet until you add context and subtext. Context is the background info that informs the text. What was the author doing, and what kind of world did the author live in when he wrote or she wrote the information? Now, that author could be a scholarly source. That could be a popular source like a newspaper article, or that could be your teacher who is writing directions in your learning management system, your syllabus, PowerPoints, whatever material they're providing for you as text-based information. Context is important. So you need to put yourself in the context of the people, the place, the time, the culture, the history. All of this shapes the meaning of text. And then lastly is the subtext. The subtext is the underlying message. Just because the words on the page say this, what do they imply? What can you infer? What can you interpret from that information? Using subtext helps you remember because it takes information and makes it more meaningful. So I hope you look at online education as a new opportunity, because this is an opportunity for you to improve your 21st century skills. This is an opportunity for you to become tech savvy, to be better at using your time and space, both effectively and efficiently, and practicing your reading comprehension, because reading really only gets better the more you use it. It is a skill, just like tech savviness is a skill, just like communication is a skill, just like shooting free throws or playing piano is a skill. You need to practice to get good at it. Being an online student requires all four of these things. So if you're not tech savvy, if you don't have a space designated for your studying, if you don't have routines, and if you don't really use reading comprehension as your learning style, maybe you're a visual learner, maybe you're a kinesthetic learner, you're going to need to be able to hone your ability to read, your ability to use space and time, and your ability to use technology. If you do, when you walk out of this class, you will not only master the material, but you'll master skill sets that you can use in the real world. When you go into the workforce, go into career building, look for a promotion, it is these kinds of skills which will get you further along. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope I was able to address some of your questions and your concerns. As always, please feel free to leave comments. You can email me directly for more questions. I'm happy to share more information with you. Good luck in your online learning. And as always, do your best and be awesome. Thanks, guys.